KLTV soundtrack, KLTV soundtrack.
Okay, welcome everyone to our Tuesday meeting of the BOCC. Before we have Pastor Kennedy come up and lead us in invocation, I will tell you, if you hear noise or banging or something, they started working on our roof up here. So it's nobody breaking into the building. It's people actually trying to repair it. Okay, so we'll have Pastor Kennedy lead us in invocation this morning.
Lord, we just thank you for the opportunity that you have. We invite you to come. We invite your presence. We invite the peace, the wisdom, and the character of the loving Father that comes into the room when you're here. And so we ask you, Lord, that everyone who speaks today is given unusual wisdom, honesty, and character. And then we ask, Lord, that the community is a unit, and that cooperation, spirit of oneness fills this. And lastly, we're about to see our children all scattered around this summer, and so we're going to ask for safety for the kids, those that are going off to different places, and we ask you, Lord, to be with them and that there be guidance in their homes and in the different things that they do. And lastly, we ask that everyone here that makes decisions does them boldly in the will of the Lord. And we thank you for that in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. You want to join me in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. One other item before we get into it, we have the extreme pleasure on our part. We always enjoy when they come in. Gifford Pinchot is in with us today. And so when we finish proceedings, we're going to give them a few minutes to tell us what's going on up at the mountain. And you will have the ability, if you have a question for them, they'll try and answer it for you, but we're just appreciate them coming down and visiting us today. So just so you know, that'll take place after our meeting. Okay. I'd entertain a review motion for the minutes of last week.
Mr. Chair, move to approve the minutes of May 19th through the 28th.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the minutes. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, call for a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. I'll run through consent agenda under agreements, contracts, bid awards. The first three items, 1, 2, 3, are all rural public facilities grants that we awarded. One to Cowlitz Fire District, number 5, to build a fire training facility. One to the city of Kalama to finish up their water plant upgrade. And one to the Port of Longview, $1 million to for the Northern Rail Capacity Addition Project. Item 4 is our sheriffs and our emergency personnel. They use a software, Spillman software, and this is a renewal of a technical support contract through 2028 at an annual cost of $66,000 to continue support for that project, that product, that software. Which I would mention, I think all emergency people within our county use this. 911 uses it, fire, they all use it. Number 5, we're updating a interlocal cooperation agreement for Lower Columbia SWAT. This is an update from an agreement that was originally done in 2011. It adds the city of Castle Rock to it. Contract completion. So Elaine, if you get feisty out at your place, we know where to find you now. We have a contract completion letter to Advanced Electrical Technologies. They do as-needed electrical services for us at the landfill. In 2024, that mattered about around $54,000. Board correspondence. We have a letter dated 6/10 of 2025 to Cameron Finson, appointing him to the Board of Equalization. This is a 3-year term. It expires the end of July 2028. Letter dated 6/10 of 25 to Tim Shea, appointing him to the Veterans Advisory Board. It's a 4-year term. This expires the end of October 2029. Letter dated 6/10 of 2025 to Todd Bowes, appointing him to the Veterans Advisory Board. It is a 4-year term and it expires the end of October 2029. We have vouchers this week in amount of $787,658.15. Gentlemen, that's consent agenda. If there's any questions on it. See none, I'd ask for a motion.
I move approval of the consent agenda.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the consent agenda. Seeing no hands, nobody. Okay, we'll call for a vote. Those in favor? Aye. Thank you. One motion item today.
Good morning, Gina James, Health and Human Services. The item we have on the motion agenda today is an agreement with Housing Opportunities of Southwest Washington. It's a contract to support on-site case management services at Sunrise Village. This came from a proposal with a previous board that came in. We did an RFP for affordable housing projects, and Housing Opportunities submitted a proposal primarily for some construction costs at Sunrise Village, and it also included this $60,000 for supportive services on site at Sunrise Village, which is opening this month, which is really exciting, about 60 units. So it'll be a great addition to our community. So this contract is, as I mentioned, not to go above the $60,000. It will run over a 3-year period. And that's the total contract amount. That's not $60,000 each year, to help with the on-site case management.
I think that it was actually Commissioner Weber, Mortensen, and Jay Bush at the time that approved.
It was.
This one,
It
yeah.
was. Yep. Just before you came in. Yep.
And actually Sunrise, the opening ceremony is today.
Yep.
At noon, yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Do you by chance know what the average rent's going to be for those units?
I don't know what the average rent is. I know there is some set asides. So there's certain units designated for individuals that are at certain income levels. So there's, I think, 20 for individuals who make at or below 30% of the area median income, and another set for folks who make at or below 60% of the area median income. So they're, really trying to help folks who may have a lower income to have units.
So the rent's based on what their income is?
Some of them, I know some are subsidized and some are not. And then if they are at a certain income level, then they're eligible for those units. We may learn today at the opening what the rent levels are. I'm not sure exactly what the set amounts are.
Who subsidizes that?
I believe Housing Opportunities. So I think there's some HUD vouchers that they will be able to utilize at that location.
Okay. Yeah. You have a question on, sure.
As you know, I'm tight with the supportive support system that we have. In that, is there a contract with the people that are using this that they abide by certain criteria and the support includes education for jobs so that these people that are coming in and using these facilities and getting this benefit are actively employed and contributing so that they can maintain and thrive in this condition?
Yeah, so with all of these units, folks will need to pay something. So it's not, 100% subsidized. But yes, as part of that case management piece, would be looking at job resources, or other types of services that they might be beneficial for them to help sustain living independently and on their own.
Okay, then, yeah, I agree with that part because they have to have some sort, I believe, some sort of, not payback, but commitment.
Mhm.
And showing this commitment, they need to actively have a job and thrive instead of just getting it. So thank you.
Sure. Yeah, employment will certainly be a piece of that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Good morning. I'd like to challenge the word that's called permanent supportive housing. Is that all of these entities, all of these units are supported by us in some way or another. And I don't believe that the individuals getting in there have a entitlement attitude of permanent housing in those units. We're supposed to be providing us an assistance to work through some tough times or to get some things done and move on. But the very word tells them they are entitled forever. So I challenge that.
Well, and this, as I mentioned, individuals will have to pay a portion of the rent. So it's not completely provided. And just some history on that phrase, the permanent supportive housing, that term kind of comes from is programs that don't exit people at a certain time frame. So if somebody can live in a location beyond 2 years, it's typically transitional housing is up to 2 years. And then if they are able to stay past 2 years, then it can have that term of permanent.
For the rest of the story, let me remind us all, we have already paid $16 million for these 40 units. So we've already paid for those, and now we're paying for the permanent housing subsidy. So what I look for is what is the in view of looking at change or opportunity rather than permanality as the word indicates.
Okay.
That brings up, that is a good point, Gina. Do you know, is there a time limit on how long somebody can stay in those apartments? And is it meant to be transitional housing or is it just meant to be subsidized housing?
It's units of no, it's not meant to be transitional housing. It's considered more of permanent housing, but individuals, I mean, as with anywhere, have to be a good fit to stay. So if as long as they're being good tenants and following, the boundaries in place at Sunrise Village, and are able to pay their portion of their rent and all of those pieces, then they'll be, it's my understanding, they'll be allowed to continue to stay there. I don't know a lot of details about the voucher piece, and that's a smaller set aside of the units. I think it's about a third of the units with a voucher subsidized, but for the rest, it's, they're individual leases, and as long as they're following and being good tenants and those things, then they'll be able to stay in those units.
But what we're approving today, the 3-year agreement, that will be ongoing after the 3 years? Or is it just for the 3 years and they're gonna have to come back and ask for it again?
It's my understanding there's also some other funding that they're utilizing. So, I mean, I think ideally then they would maybe be able to sustain that piece independently of our funding. That's sort of the intent at this point. Because this was presented as like a one-time funding piece. So that's the plan at this point. Of course, they could, they're always welcome to come and knock, but
Well, maybe I can answer a few people's, what came to my mind. I looked it up here really quick, but the things that jump out to me are an application fee, $46, right off the top. Then security deposits are 300 for 1 bedroom, 400 for 2 bedrooms, 500 for 3 bedrooms. Is any of that going to cover some of this for these people? I mean, it says in the description that this is for homeless, certain amount of this, right?
There's,
So
yeah.
I'm just wondering, is there homeless people walking around with $500 in their pocket to pay the deposit? Not to mention the 46 for signing up. I'm just curious, is that 60,000 covering any of this part of it, or?
No, this 60,000 is only for the case management services on site.
Right. So, and then they got dogs, you can have a dog and a cat. That's a $200 pet deposit. So really, you'd be looking, if you're gonna get a 3-bedroom with, you got a cat and a dog, you're looking at $700 in deposits. Just in case anybody's wondering.
Thanks, Tim.
In your agreement for the housing, I would certainly request that you have lines in there that says annual inspection and a report to the commissioners here for our money. Is that, remind again, with the Phoenix House, that building was only 7 years old and they came in for over $100,000 for rehab for lack of taking care of the facility. So let's at least have a minimal expectation
Mhm.
that the tenants are going to take care of it and a manager is going to inspect and expect that.
Okay, thank you. And that reminds me, I mentioned this yesterday, but we are updating some of the language. It will be updated in the DocuSign version around that reporting, that there'll be an annual report submitted, and we can certainly ask for that to include an update on the physical, the building itself. Yeah.
So if they're due inspections, who gets to decide if it's adequately being maintained? That's gonna be the management decision?
Yeah, I know that there's some parameters that housing opportunities will have to follow with all of their different funding sources that were utilized to build that building. HUD often has annual inspection requirements, and I'm guessing other funding partners may as well. The Department of Commerce, I think, was the funding partner. But it will be HOSWA who's ultimately responsible for maintaining and meeting those requirements of their funders.
Okay.
Okay. Any other?
You do it. No, you do it. No, you do it.
I might ask you to come up help. Anyways, so if these are permanent, the word permanent, okay, then, and we're filled, then what do we do with other people? We have to build up another facility? I mean, there's a,
Yeah.
top line where,
HOSWA is always looking for facilities. These type of units are different than the Phoenix House. They are meant for permanent housing. It's kind of like campus towers in that respect. It's meant for permanent housing for those people. So the answer flow is, yeah, they continue looking to expand their inventory is the simple answer.
okay, well, what was your other question? You did good. Oh, she's got better questions than I do, but thank you very much. Thanks.
Any other? And if we're okay with the motion, I'd take one.
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of motion item number 8, agreement with the housing opportunities of Southwest Washington to provide permanent supportive housing and case management services at Sunrise Village.
Okay. We have a motion to approve the agreement with HOSWA. Last chance for questions. Go ahead, Ron.
I would please request that you supplement with an annual report to the Board of Commissioners on the inspection. Put that in writing.
Mr. Chair, just one point of clarification. Even though this was approved by a different board, could we still turn it down at this point?
Yeah, we can. I'm reluctant to reverse
Oh, no. I'm
what they
just-
felt was right, but,
Yeah, I
but
just wanted to know if something-
the short answer is yes.
So if we wanted annual inspections to amend that into the contract, do we need to do it here or just have her do it?
We do have language. So in the contract that we submitted in Agenda Quick, we noticed an error with some of the reporting, with the reporting section. And so we have updated that, and that will come in the DocuSign version, but it will say annual report. I think we put June 30th of each year that it will have to come in. And we have some flexibility around what we can ask them to include in that as part of that report. And I've heard today, like an update on the physical shape of the building itself, as well as the residents they're serving with these services and what that has looked like for the first year and then for the second year. So we'll get that update each year.
Who's going to see that report?
It will likely come to us, and then we can set up time. Sometimes we do with these types of contracts, we'll set up a time for them to come and share with the board, like a work session, like what Community Mediation Center just did. So we could set up something like that for them to share that information with you
Great.
and with the public.
I'm comfortable with that.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Okay, seeing none, we'll call for a vote. All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Gina.
Thank you.
We'll let Gifford Pinchot start getting set up. Well, while they're getting up there, I'll remind you tomorrow, and Flo, this one's for you. Larry Wood's going to be in with his tiny home project. I know he has some questions, so if you feel like attending, he will answer them. Wednesday, June 18th, we have district court billing rates. And it looks like the next Board of Health is June 24th. And it looks like we're closed June 19th. What's the 19th? Juneteenth?
Yeah.
We close for that crap?
I don't know that we can avoid it, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
We're closing for a lot of made-up government holidays.
Yeah, okay, and then July 3rd, I can understand that one.
Do we have any way to limit federal holidays?
Yeah. Okay, sorry, I got sidetracked here. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and then we'll just let you go.
Awesome. Good morning. I'm going to start by saying thank you to Kelly for arranging the time for us to be here this morning, and to you all commissioners for welcoming us. My name is Johanna Kovarik. I'm the forest supervisor on the Gifford Pinchot National Forest. The Gifford Pinchot is about 1.3 million acres, and it stretches from Mount Rainier National Park's borders down to the Columbia Gorge National Scenic Area. And within the Gifford Pinchot National Forest, we have 3 ranger districts. One of those ranger districts is Mount St. Helens, which is a ranger district and a national monument. And with me today, I have Nick Granum.
Good morning. Can you hear me? Yep.
Yeah.
Good morning. Nick Granum. I'm the acting district ranger for the Mount St. Helens National Volcanic Monument and Ranger District. My other job is I'm the deputy forest supervisor on the Columbia River Gorge National Scenic Area, as you mentioned. But I'm happy to be in this position for a short time as we are waiting a permanent ranger in that position.
Awesome. Thanks, Nick. And so we do have a permanent ranger coming into Mount St. Helens. Dusty Vaughn will be joining us on June 23rd. So coming up very, very shortly. We only have Nick for a small amount of time here, and we're really grateful for his help and support over the last few weeks. So we're looking forward also to welcoming Dusty Vaughn here at the end of the month. So a little bit more about the Gifford Pinchot, and then I'll get into some updates. We have 7 designated wilderness areas spanning about 181,000 acres. We have 44 developed campgrounds, We have 16 snow parks, 108 historic structures, and 3,000 plus miles of roads, which are open to highway legal vehicles, and 1,475 miles of trails. And we have about 100 permanent employees on forest. So some updates for you all, some major things happening. I have some thanks to share. I'm going to start with Spirit Lake, what's been going on the last couple of months. Our Spirit Lake project manager has put in a whole bunch of work over the last year to shift our emergency response plan to an emergency action plan. That emergency action plan is in alignment with the national standard, and Bureau of Reclamation has been a big help for us in that transition. That effort accumulated in a tabletop exercise, which included several federal agencies, including the Army Corps of Engineers, as well as Cowlitz County Emergency Management. And just, I wanted to share out a huge amount of thanks and gratefulness to Larry Hembry, the County Emergency Manager, for his work in supporting us in that conversation. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Ah, yes, the banging. So again, I'll say, oh, that is way better. Thank you. So again, huge thanks to Larry Hembry and Cowlitz County for their support and partnership and friendship in the work towards that ultimate goal of and shared value, safety for the citizens of the county here, as well as the surrounding areas. Spirit Lake long-term outflow project has also been ongoing. We had a large public meeting, again, hosted here in Cowlitz County in person with several attendees from around the county as well as outside the county. The draft environmental impact statement, we're working to get out to the public. We're looking at July as a date for that, and we'll make sure that that information gets out to everyone, and we'll be looking for and welcoming public comment on that draft environmental impact statement when it comes out. Other large projects happening around the forest. There's a ton of road work going on. I think maybe Nick will get to that. I'll let him talk about that for his district, for the local area, if you have.
I might have a few things, but.
Okay. But I want to say that this summer we have the most amount of road work we've had in a long time, which is a good thing. We're getting a lot of roads fixed on the forest, including one major bridge project with a bridge getting replaced. It's a good thing, and there's going to be a lot more traffic, and it'll be a little bit harder to get around on forest. So we'll be sharing out information through our normal channels, social media, et cetera, with what that looks like on forest, and we'll make sure to get the commissioners a copy of our annual road maintenance plan that'll detail that information, share that with the county emergency manager as well, just so that everyone that needs to have that information has it. So we appreciate the public's patience and grace as we get all those roadwork repairs done. I'm pretty excited about seeing what it'll look like at the end of the summer.
Can I back to Spirit Lake just a little bit, this environmental impact statement, is this on, because I've seen a plan of different ways to flow out of there.
Yeah.
Instead of the tunnel, is that what this is on?
Absolutely.
Looking at the different plans to do that?
Yep.
Okay.
The Forest Service was tasked by Congress to come up with a long-term plan for the outflow at Spirit Lake.
Yeah.
The current tunnel that's there, the fixes to that tunnel have been pretty expensive.
Yeah.
So Congress asked us to take a hard look at long-term, what's the right solution? And so we're doing that. Yeah, so in the public meeting, we shared several options of different things we're looking at. The contractor that we're working with for the development of that plan has been working with an engineering firm in terms of looking at feasibility, and safety is the top priority as we're looking at those
Yeah.
options.
Here's the thing for the public, that this is a big deal. Spirit Lake up there was formed. It was formed with a natural dam when the mountain did. And if you know the debris from the mountain, I think they've done some core samples, and it's not the most stable. We've seen it on Rock Creek. We've seen it where it goes away. And the problem with is they're trying to make sure it doesn't happen. If Spirit Lake breached or had a collapse or a problem, I hear different things about the magnitude of what it would be. None of them are good. One is like you got another mountain coming down the deal. Another is you're going to be underwater here in Longview. So this is, even if it's only half that, this is a big deal they're working on, and important to people in Cowlitz County, just so you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that overview, and agree. As we get the draft out, we'll have continued public meetings and public engagement opportunities, and we'll make sure to share that information with the commissioners so that it can be shared out through these venues, and we'll come back and visit you all with some more information as we get that draft out. All right, so I'm going to shift to some of the large projects that we have going on. So currently, the Gifford-Pinchot Forest-Wide Plantation Thin and Potential Control Line Draft Environmental Analysis went out for comment, public comment in April, and we got those comments back, and we're looking to sign a decision here in the next month. That project is an environmental analysis that looks across the whole forest at about 136,000 acres of plantations, so areas that were replanted after harvest in the past that are under 80 years of age that we're looking to commercially thin. The potential control lines are areas along roadways that our fire managers are looking to prioritize, where we can do fuels treatments to slow down or look at areas where we could potentially have more control over fire spread during a fire event. And so that information is also available on our website in terms of the details of that project. There's a story map through GIS, which will walk you through the different areas on the forest where we're looking at treatment, and also show you some visual representations of what that treatment could look like. So I also encourage you all to check that out. All right, so as we start to look towards fire season, we have, while other areas we haven't been able to hire, we've been able to continue to hire within our fire program. We're working to get fully staffed up on the Gifford-Pinchot. We have about 30 firefighters across the forest. Right now, the predictive services for June and July, we're looking at normal or above normal, but looking into August and September, right now they're saying above normal. We're continuing to make sure that we're having good conversations pre-season. So March, April, into May, a lot of meetings with the county as well as with the local fire departments between our own fire crews, with the state, DNR, and all of our partners kind of up and down the forest. So we continue to invest in those relationships. We have great relationships, again, across those local fire districts, county, state, and we look forward to continuing to work with them as the season gets here. I think an important message to know for folks in the county and folks that are recreating out in the forest is that please pay attention to what those fire restrictions are on forest. If we're in public use restrictions, and especially if we're in stage 2, there's no fires allowed. If you have one of those propane stoves that has an on-off switch, you can have that with you when you're camping. But we just really want to, again, prioritize safety across the forest, across the county, and ensure that we're limiting those human-started fires on forest.
I think it's great that you guys are actually considering thinning the forest because I think that's a natural part of fire reduction and control in and of itself. In the plan, is there any talk about removing the fuel that's on the ground, all the windfall and the dead trees that are on the ground? Is there any talks about getting rid of that and cleaning that part of it out?
Yeah, so part of any project we do, there's usually an element of fuels treatments, and ultimately that looks like piling and burning for us for the most part, especially on the west side. On the east side over by Trout Lake, we do have some projects that have underburn prescriptions, which are more kind of like prescribed burn across a larger piece of ground, but a lot of our fuels treatment on forest looks like piling and burning, and we do accomplish quite a bit of that work year to year, and that work will be included in those projects. All right, with that, I will pause and hand it over to Nick for some specific updates and announcements from the monument.
Sure. Good morning, and thanks for having me again. A couple things, and I'm sure some of these may prompt questions, and if not, that's okay. One thing related to road updates, the Forest Service website has recently undergone a major update, new contractor, new system. So a lot of this information is there. If you're having trouble finding things because it's moved around, by all means, reach out to us. Let us know. We can, as you probably know, when there's a new website, it means there's new information in new places. So the idea was to get it to places where people need to find it and are able to, but if you're having trouble, let us know. And so a lot of those road updates are there. A couple that I want to highlight. the State Route 504 leading up to the Johnson Ridge Observatory remains closed due to that landslide. And the estimated time is 2027. We're working with the state to figure out what the process will be to get that open. I know that's a spot that people enjoy going to. I haven't been there yet this season, but I'm looking forward to sneaking up there and seeing what we can see and get it ready for when when that road is able to open again.
Have you been able to get power over to it so you can kind of maintain?
There
You have-
is power, yes, as far as I know. That's been that's on again, which is helping with some of the equipment
Yeah.
stuff there. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a big focus for us, post South Coldwater Slide, is ensuring that we had power getting to the visitor center to ensure that it is staying viable, right? And with no power, you can get some dampness in the building and those kinds of things. And we want to make sure that it's, staying in good order so that we can reopen as quickly as possible.
In the meantime, for awareness, there are continued interpretive services at the Coldwater Science Learning Center. So our staff are still working there and providing some of those visitor services. So folks can come up to the mountain and hear more about what the landscape is doing and how things are moving around. A small note, the restroom down at the bottom of the hill at Coldwater Lake is now working again. It's a small thing, don't tell everyone, but if you happen to be up there and you need to use the restroom, that is now working again, so that's very exciting. I know don't tell everyone we're in a public meeting, right? But okay. Another thing to note, the Ape Cave timed use permits are in effect again this year. I think you've maybe seen that in the past. I believe it opened May 18th and is going to be open through October 31st. And because that gets so busy, we're just helping maintain access through those timed use permits, and those are at recreation.gov. A new update this year is a scan and pay system at some of our sites. You can download the recreation.gov app and ahead of time, ideally, if there's a cell phone reception in the place you're going, and then scan and pay rather than having to have the pass in advance. So that can be helpful. Another thing to note just about office hours, the ranger stations are open Monday, Wednesday, and Friday now, 9 to 4. The theme of as we work through the transitions that we're experiencing these days is we're making it work. Things are our staff are shifting their work around to make sure that they continue to provide public access to the resources you need. Let's see. I think I'll leave it at that, unless you have any specific questions about any of the roads or anything else. Thanks.
And I probably say this every time, and we probably take it for granted, but we're spoiled in the Northwest with some of these areas we have that I've ridden through Kansas. We're spoiled here with some of the stuff we have. I've dirt biked up there, been up on some of the highest places. I have a adventure bike, BDR, the backcountry discovery route runs through there and stuff. We're very blessed in the Northwest to have some of these things. And so it's upon all of us to take care of us. I know my partner down there is probably for sure hunted and probably fished up in there. So it's all, we're very blessed. No matter how hard Olympia tries to screw our state, we have these assets that you want to take care of. Any questions for these people? Yeah? And you've probably ridden your horse up there. I know it. Yeah.
That's was
Yeah.
one of the issues. And you probably kind of are going like this, a horse person.
Oh, no, we, backcountry horsemen are a huge partner for us, and we're really, really
Yes.
grateful for all of the work that they do on forest.
I belong to the Lewis County Backcountry Horsemen.
Oh, wonderful.
And Norma and Gary Wright, and, I know all the things that they do. And I have been riding up there pre-eruption. And actually, that was my biggest heartache, was to see all our trails gone. And then also having the Forest Service tell us that, okay, you cannot ride in the monument because you would contaminate that area. And it's been a number of years now. And I am petitioning to please let the horse people back up there. We can help you maintain or create trails that some of the trails that we had in the areas that you would like us to, because I think an amount of time has gone by that anything that would have been brought in or could be brought on by our horse, what they've eaten or off our gear or whatever, has already gotten there via the elk and deer, birds. I mean, it's there. And so I don't think we would hurt the environment. And so I'd really like to have you guys think about permission to let the horses and the horse groups create and maintain any trails or that we could ride up there. We really appreciated it. It was very, very beautiful, and we had some really cool trails. Another problem that I'm having, or our horse groups are having, is the bikes. It creates ruts. It makes the trails really, really, and you can't travel them. The horses can't find footholds in this little V shape. People can't walk. If
Yes.
even hikers have trouble with the V. And so I know they have motorized bikes now, which at my age now, I'm starting to think about them, but I know I wouldn't go on a trail like that, but still, they cause a lot of damage to our trails. And and roots, they ruin the roots of the trees. They create pathways for water that would be unnatural, which really cause problems, and dig deep trenches. And also, it- like I say, I just appreciate it if you'd let us back in. You think
Yeah.
you might?
Yeah, thank you for that feedback. So one of the projects that we've had on our plate that we've been looking at trying to take on is the monument plan revision. And as part of that revision process, that's absolutely something that we would consider, and there'll be public comment as part of that, and that feedback would be really important.
That would
So
be-
thank you for sharing that. One of the things that I don't know quite as much about that I would like to learn more about is where there are horse trails on forest and where those areas are that the
Oh.
horsemen are particularly interested in. So that feedback was really helpful this morning.
It's been 50-some years if I can remember where the trails are, but I will contact my group, and I will see if we can find some trails. The thing that we really enjoyed as well, and I'm not sure Weyerhaeuser is working with you on that, and as far as fire prevention, a lot of these old logging roads were a lot of the areas that we would use for part of our trails. And they gave people access to areas that would possibly be in danger of having a fire. And as we rode in the years past, we noticed that more and more of those were closed. And, that bothered us. We had to put more trails in, of course, which we did. But if those could be reopened, is that part of your plan, is opening up some of these older logging roads? Because they did access some of these very remote areas.
So as we look at different types, so I talked about environmental impact statements, as we do different analysis on a particular area, a piece of that oftentimes will be travel analysis, and that is looking at the road system in that particular planning area and talking about what's open, what's not. An element of that is getting our fire folks involved and talking about access for fire as well. So as we look at those different planning areas, we usually bring that up as part of the conversation. Not always, not in every project, but most of the time we do, yes. And I know it's been a topic of conversation. I've heard with Skamania County in terms of concern over fire access and those kinds of things. But what I'm thinking is, I will chat with our recreation folks and our rangers. I know Teresa Tanner up on the Cowlitz Valley Ranger District works closely with backcountry horsemen. Just have some conversations with folks on forest to learn a little bit more about where we can be synergistic with the horsemen in terms of maintaining some of those access roads.
Well,
That's
thank
great
you very
info.
much.
Yeah, of course.
We had some absolutely beautiful, beautiful trails. And I know that, our group would definitely help you as far as opening up new other trails, even just ones for hikers. I mean, the horses bring the logs in for the bridges, they bring the soil, the rock that you need. And, we can be a great asset So,
Absolutely. You
thank you.
definitely are. Thank you so much for the work and the partnership.
Thank you very
Agreed,
much.
yeah.
I know there's a horse camp on Little Clamor River Road up Lewis River, and I've run into horses on trails up there.
Yep.
So the horses are able to ride on trails in the forests.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I'd echo, knowing specifics, the exact locations, if there's a destination or a place that you really want to get to, and for some reason that's the place that's cut off, highlighting that would make a big difference. If we can say this route from here to here, let's look at it differently. Let's take a look. So,
Yeah.
yep.
Absolutely. Yeah, I do know we worked on a project my first year here that was up on the north side of Mount Adams. That was a trail bridge on the PCT in Wilderness that we knew was really important to the horsemen. So I know we have several horse camps across Forest. I've camped at one of them. So yeah, there's definitely opportunities, but yeah, that's specific. Where there isn't that you'd like to see it would be helpful. Yeah.
Well, I have a very specific question about Spirit Lake, which I spent a lot of years at. And I've heard very little about what the plans are for the future. I've heard loggers wish they could take some of the logs out of that lake. And I was curious if there is a movement towards cleaning it out and re-recreating it, even if there is a mountain above us, over the top of it and could blow up. It could damage Johnson Ridge and Coal Creek too. So what the heck? Could we get Spirit Lake back to what it was? I'd love to see the family someday go there again.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that comment and question. So I would really encourage you to take a look at the Spirit Lake long-term outflow environmental impact statement, the draft when it comes out, because in each alternative, there's detailed information about what that would look like in terms of Spirit Lake specifically, and in terms of what we would need to do with the logs in the lake as part of each alternative. So I would start there. In terms of the recreation piece, again, a project that we haven't picked up yet, but has been on my radar. And one of the things that we'd like to do is, again, that monument plan revision, which would take a look at several of those things that you all are curious about, and especially recreation. Finally, I would say that the Spirit Lake Toutle Cowlitz River Collaborative, which I'm always proud that I can say that all in one go. They meet, and I don't have their schedule in front of me. I know there's a workshop this week, tomorrow and Friday, but they meet regularly. And one of their subgroups is a focus on economic development and tourism in the basin. And I know a conversation around that is that State Road 504 area up to Spirit Lake. So if you have an interest in things that are going on with Spirit Lake, with sediment transport in the basin, with economics and tourism in the area, I'd recommend checking out that collaborative meeting. Members of the public are welcome.
Yeah.
I'll give you a card.
I'll have Nick's going to give you his card, and then you can get in touch with him to get connected. Yeah. Hello.
We can offer an award for whoever finds Harry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And his cats.
And his,
Too soon, too soon. No.
yeah, just kidding.
Good morning. I'm a private landowner, particularly interested in fire suppression. In fact, Sunday in 90-degree heat, I spent 4 hours out in my woods, clearing understory and getting it down on the ground so it's not fire suppression. So I understand exactly how much labor is involved in doing that. And so my question for you is, how many acres per year are you actually going in, not prescribed burns, but getting the understory down on the ground and hauling it away, whatever you need? So do you have a target number of acres per year? And then where do you find the labor to do all of this hard work?
So you found my weakness. Trying to remember numbers off the top of my head, I'm really poor at. What I can say is for the project that I talked about for planning across forest, I think I said 136,000 acres. It's 156,000 acres in the planning area. And then we plan to treat, in terms of the commercial plantation thinning work, the target is about 3,600 a year. And then with the PCL work, I don't know if I have that number in front of me in terms of how many miles of road and what that translates into acres, but there's a separate number for that. And I would recommend, again, checking out on our website that particular project, because it'll give you those numbers and really directly through the story map. Now, that's just one project. right? We also have the Little White Salmon project, which is another project area. And I don't know if I have the number in terms of the planning area size for that one in front of me, but that's another planning area project, which is also doing analysis on a certain number of acres that we'll treat per year. And then we have projects where the decision has already been signed. Yellow Jacket project up on the North Zone is one of those, and there's a number of acres being treated out of that. And then projects that were signed even before that have gone through the thinning phase. And our fire crews are working on burning the piles that came out of that. So in terms of a total number that we treat across forest per year for acres, that one I couldn't give you, but we're consistently doing work around the forest. I can get a number in terms of what we did for this last year to you. And I would have you grab a card from Nick and we can email back and forth on
Is
that.
most of what you're doing now machine operated, or is there any such thing as laborers who actually come out and work anymore?
Oh, so the second part of your question is who's doing all the work? It sounded like you were.
No, go for it.
We absolutely have laborers, both Forest Service employees, and one of the things that is amazing about Southwest Washington is, again, as I mentioned earlier, our relationships across partner groups, across Washington State DNR. We're very interdependent with the state in terms of DNR folks coming out and working with us. There's a whole wide group of folks that are out in forest doing that work, from Forest Service to state to partners. You heard about Backcountry Horsemen, who goes out and does some of that work along trails. So it truly takes a community, and we're fortunate to have that awesome community here in Southwest Washington.
Well, that's good to hear. We definitely want to be smarter than California.
Good morning. Thank you for coming and giving us an update. This is really interesting. I am disappointed that we have to wait till 2027 for Johnston's Ridge to open up again. But I was told by a few rangers who came to the Children's Discovery Museum for that exhibit opening that they put there for Mount St. Helens, and they said that you can hike from the hummocks on the trail going up to Johnston's Ridge. Is that correct?
That's my understanding. That's what I plan to do actually tomorrow. I shouldn't be telling people where I'm going, but yeah. So I guess I'll let you know if that's still possible. But as there are hiking trails that are still open, and that's part of the experience for sure. My understanding of that landslide there that took out the road is it's a pretty complex area due to the deposit of debris following the eruption, and so I think they're working as quickly as they can to kind of get that dialed in, so then people can get back across the road.
Really hurts our tourism.
Yeah.
Definitely.
They did a good job of putting in temporary in hopes that worked, but it didn't wash out right away. It's like you said, the soils and stuff is kind of complex up in there.
I was reading the management plan just to try to catch up on everything, and I think one of the recommendations early on in the mid '80s was to not put a road up there. Don't put anything up there. We have a road there now, and so it's complex, and so I think it's a good thing that they're taking it seriously, so they can get a safe access to that spot.
Yeah, this landscape moves around, as I think you all know pretty well, right? And so we want to make sure, again, great partnership with Washington State Department of Transportation. I'm really grateful for the folks that have been involved since the South Coldwater slide. And yeah, with that experience with the temp road, we want to make sure that whatever gets put in there is safe, as Nick's saying, and permanent. So the monument is still open. There's still access and places to go. I'm really proud of our team. Another partner that we work interdependently with is Mount St. Helens Institute. We're super grateful for them and their support. They work primarily out of the Coldwater Science and Learning Center. When that South Coldwater slide happened, they welcomed our team back into that Science and Learning Center so that we could be open to the public. They also have a huge number of volunteers that volunteer with them each summer. and provide service to visitors on the climbing up to the top of Mount St. Helens, as well as helping support Ape Cave being open, as well as just, being available around the Coldwater Science and Learning Center and a variety of other programs that they offer. So I really recommend checking out the opportunities that they offer for different programs, as well as their volunteer program if anybody's interested in helping out on the monument this summer or in the future. And through them, there are those opportunities in that area to recreate. And then there's a whole host of trails that are open. Mount Margaret Backcountry, as well as the Hummocks Trail, which does go out to Jarrow, and then Ape Caves and other opportunities on the south side. So, I got to see Johnston Ridge Observatory I started out as the acting deputy forest supervisor here in 2022 in the fall, and I got to go out and visit Johnston Ridge. It was amazing. It is such a special place. And so I am really looking forward to us being open again and hopefully before the 50th anniversary. Nick said too soon. We celebrated the 45th anniversary of the eruption just this last May. And thanks to anyone who was with us and came out to Coldwater for that anniversary. But we're really looking forward to a larger celebration for the 50th. And the plan is to have Johnston Ridge be part of that. So hopefully we'll be able to do that.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. I've hiked up at Johnston's Ridge 3 or 4 times and Coldwater and all that area. So next week I'm going from Hummocks to Johnston's Ridge. Keep my fingers crossed. Thank you so much for your
Of course, let us know what you see out there. Send Nick an email.
Yeah, please.
Thank you for coming. Getting back to forest management. The only word I heard about forest management was thinning. I presume that we are logging also, that it's 45 years since Mount St. Helens, the forests are growing greatly, and that the logging and thinning provides the access on the roads. It gets fire management is pretty well limited if you can't get people into the areas there and immediate to be able to get things out. So what is more than just thinning? What are you actually logging and taking logs and managing the forest?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think thinning maybe that word doesn't quite create the right picture. Thinning for us is logging. We're thinning trees that are under 80 years of age. They're fairly good sized, and that is through our commercial program. So absolutely, logging is ongoing on the forest. We've been at about 30 million board feet the last couple of years, but we're actively working, as I described, that commercial plantation thinning really is, logging across the forest. We're working at ramping up our planning shelf stock, so having areas on the ground that are cleared through environmental analysis so that we can get to implementation to that forest resiliency work, that treatment work, that logging work on the ground. So we're working to increase that target that we put out each year, and that forest-wide project that we're doing is a big component of that. Absolutely.
Okay, so your thinning logging includes commercial loggers, contractors, et cetera, and
Correct.
managing that process.
Yeah, absolutely. And then
Okay.
I mentioned that there's a ton of road work going on this summer. A big piece of the work that our engineers on forest do, along with Washington DNR, which has been a public works partner for us as well, we're focusing on those areas for access for those fuels treatments and that forest resiliency work. So ton going on this summer. Our engineers are super busy, and you'll see that out on the ground when you're out on the forest this summer.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So I have a quick question. If logging is done, and now are we back to slash burning after we clear those areas? Or are we leaving the crap on the ground so it can be fire hazard?
Absolutely. Part of the work that we do with logging is pile burning. And so the materials that are left are piled and then burnt through the winter by our fire and fuels program.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Hooray.
Yeah.
You may have noticed we've had a lot of changes at the national level. My guy running around with a chainsaw and things like that. How are the changes in national policy and funding and everything else affecting your work here locally?
Yeah, so there's been, as you all have experienced, a lot of transition in the last few months. It's been about 6 months now. And I think that's the biggest thing is just lots of transition, new people getting into place, working with them to understand their priorities. They understand, understanding the Forest Service and what we do and getting to a place where we're moving forward. So, our mission remains the same and our employees are still here serving the mission and we're glad to be here in Southwest Washington. So really, it's that experience of transition, which has an effect on everybody in terms of continuing to move forward, right? So that's what I'd say about that. I don't know, Nick, if you have any thoughts from the.
Yeah, I'm thinking about some of the words that our new chief has emphasized in terms of active forest management, maintaining access to public lands, using and making sure the recreation opportunities help drive local economies. I think those things are continued to be emphasized, and like I said earlier, we're making it work. Having our staff move around and make sure that they can do the work that's needed to meet those objectives, I think is part of that effort. And that comes with some discomfort sometimes, but I think our staff are leaning into it and making it work.
Is that an overall positive thing then from your management perspective?
I guess I would have to sit with that question. I don't know that I would qualify it. It's changed, it's different. There's a lot of energy in the system right now. Yeah, I don't know that I would qualify it, but I'll sit with that question.
Yeah, well, I'm interested in realistic management of forest, not letting them go natural and burn up and call that progress. Yeah, like I say, I'm a private owner myself. I know what it takes to take care of forests, and it's a big deal, and it takes a lot of effort. So
Yeah.
if you're getting that kind of support, then I think we're moving in the right direction.
Yeah, thanks for that feedback, for sure.
Good.
You've been up there 3 times.
We're here all day.
Yeah. I just got a really quick thing to say. I've enjoyed that forest my whole life, and I really appreciate it being there. And I appreciate what work you guys get done up there. There's a big place, can't get it all done all the time, but for my life, it's been that mountain, all around it has just been great for me. And I appreciate that very much from you guys.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that feedback.
Thank you.
Yeah, come on out.
Okay, as everybody knows, I'm a very, very frugal person, okay? And we have had at one time 40 acres, which we logged, and we got pretty good money from it. So I imagine the amount of acreage that you're going to be doing, you're going to get a good size amount. And since you're a federal agency, how much money, is there any portion of that coming to our county or, I mean, in what aspect? I mean, like, how is it coming to us? Is it helping our schools? Is it, how much is it coming to us? How much out of that portion is coming to us?
Yeah, absolutely. Timber receipts and other funds that come into the forest do come back to the county. In terms of what specific amount and portion to Cowlitz County, I do not remember off the top of my head, but I have seen the amount and it's pretty easy for us to access that information and get it to you. The main way that comes through is through the Secure Rural Schools program, which was not reauthorized for this year. And so instead of that, it's the, I think 25% receipts go back to the counties. So we would have to look that up to get that number to you for this county in particular, but absolutely money from timber receipts as well as some other funds that come into the forest do come back to the counties.
About 25%. Then
You could probably get that through Kathy too.
Pardon?
You could probably get that through our finance director also.
Okay. Then what do you do with it, 75%?
Oh, man. We do a lot of different things. So in terms of, we started focusing on the commercial timber projects that we have. A portion of that money goes back into the sale area for sale area improvements, whether that's watershed work, things like replacing culverts to ensure fish passage or to ensure road solvency, fuels work, fuels reduction work. There's a whole host of different things that we spend that money on back in those sale areas. There's some complicated ways the budgeting works in terms of being able to convert money from those dollars, what we call KV or Knudsen Vandenberg dollars, to different kinds of, we call it K2, but different kinds of dollars that can then be converted to use other places. But a lot of that money goes back into the forest.
It does. Okay.
Yeah.
One other, as you probably noticed, I'm kind of a negative person, which I'm sorry, very much so. And I'm a horse person. And just last weekend, I was riding off of PH10. Are you familiar with that area? PH10? Castle Rock, it's out that way. And you don't have any land there, but Weyerhaeuser does. And this is the sad part. They are logging like there's no tomorrow. And there's great, huge, huge, huge areas. And a lot of times you can see them from the freeway. There's just massive bald areas all over now. I mean, they're logging full hilt. And they're doing it in large areas. Now, are you going to log? In the past, they would log in patchwork so that you would have a growth in between different areas so that you would have natural reseeding like that. Are you going to do that, or are you going to do what Weyerhaeuser's doing? Because it's breaking our heart. I mean, they've gone through so many of our trails. You wouldn't believe, miles and miles of our trails. And we really don't want to see you guys log that way.
Yeah, so again, I would recommend checking out the story map for the commercial plantation thinning and PCL work online on our website.
Okay.
It will show you some images of what treatments could look like.
Okay.
We do have about 300 acres per year of regeneration harvest with that particular project that we can do. So that is areas where you're going to see larger openings, but that work is going to be specifically focused where, for example, we might want to do huckleberry restoration work so that we have larger huckleberry areas of growth, or where there's insect and disease, where you maybe have an area of laminated root rot or something like that, that we need to treat a larger area. Early seral habitat, as we call it, is also beneficial for some wildlife species. So there's a lot of reasons why we might do some larger, what we call openings in the canopy. But there are specific restrictions in terms of what size those would look like.
Oh, good.
So if you want to know for a particular area what it's going to look like and what those openings might look like, I really recommend looking at the project description, because there's information in there about what we're planning to do and why in terms of those openings.
That's awesome. I really appreciate it, because you have no idea how heartbroken we are that it's Sierra Pacific, Weyerhaeuser. I mean, I could list off several others that they're just doing so much and in such wide areas that it's created a change in our wind patterns and the water runoff and everything. I mean, they've really overdone it in some areas. And so I'm glad that you're taking those into consideration. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
I have a question that I'm going to try and frame to where it makes sense and give you a little insight into my thought process. I'm very grateful you guys are here. It's awesome that we have an opportunity to talk with you guys. I am a 100% full advocate in being stewards of our natural resources and of the land and of our wildlife. And along with that, I recognize that a lot of the times when I look at science and when I look at, you talk about a 5-year plan and environmental impacts, we take human beings out of the equation and just as if we have to withdraw from this because we are the problem. And I want to take the fire suppression to Larry's comments. I want to ask you something with regards to that. Fire is a naturally occurring, and it naturally occurs. Lightning strikes, and it's one of the tools that Mother Nature uses to cleanse the land. And if you look at areas where there have been fires, where there was a lot of trees, there was no undergrowth, there was nothing living under the canopy, excuse me, and after the fire, there's all sorts of wildlife. There's flowers, there's grass, there's, so I think fires have a benefit to nature because she does it all on her own, right? And I think that one of the things that we do as human beings to try to impact, as we talk about fire suppression, We do that because it has an impact on us. We view it as a negative impact on us as human beings, where as Mother Nature does it as part of what she does. What we would call a catastrophic event is what Mother Nature just does every day. And so we try to find ways to mitigate the impact on us as human beings because we place value on the resources that were affected. Does that make sense? So what is the thought process when we look at 5-year plans? Do we throw ourselves into that process and say, we have a role to play in this? And is it an economic driver that is weighing our decision moving forward? The logging, the tourism, is it the effect on nature itself that is a driver? I'm sure there's a weighing system that we use to make these decisions. But the insight that I would like to know is, what is the motivating factor when we look at these 5-year plans? Because when I see a lot of these plans, I'm a very logical person, and I would say that I'm almost a simpleton, okay? The applying logic, common sense to me is the best way to go. And when we throw out terms like what is the environmental impact? There's an environmental impact whether we do something or not.
Absolutely.
Whether there's action or inaction, there's always going to be an environmental impact, and nature will find a way to mitigate our faults a lot of the time. So in those plans and in the thought, the decision-making that we have, to what level do we say we need to let nature do its thing and we're a part of it and our impact is X? Because I was just up at Coldwater this last week, and I saw a sign on the grass that says, plants grow by the inch but die by the foot, suggesting that we stay on the trail and we don't walk off of that trail. And yet you could look off 400 yards and there's a herd of 35 elk that all weigh over 700 pounds on that same grass. So where do we draw the line and say, we're just now exerting control, trying to control certain things that we can't really control, but because we're a government agency, we will, and applying just common sense to what we do and understanding that nature is going to do what nature is going to do. Does that make sense?
Totally. Yeah. And sometime I would love to have a long philosophical conversation with you about conservation versus preservation, about wilderness, all of that. But my short answer is terrible because it's no one's favorite answer, which is it depends. And it's complicated. I will say, I think if you take Spirit Lake and you look at, because you're talking about the monument in particular, what Congress told us to do with the monument and the monument mission as a whole is different than that in other parts of the forest. For example, in our matrix grounds, where we manage for something different that the forest plan tells us to do, right? So I think one of the great things about the Forest Service is that with our mission of conservation, we are in real time balancing all of those things that you talked about based on the framework that we've received from Congress in terms of what we have to do with different parts of the land, right? And so that Spirit Lake project, the long-term outflow project, I think is a great example of where the monument mission says one thing and we're taking that into account and thinking about how we stay in alignment with that. And also we're prioritizing safety for the county there. We have had a huge impact in terms of the tunnel being put in and what we're proposing to do. The work right now that's going on the ground with a construction project to replace the intake gates at the lake. All of those things have prioritized safety in terms of all of the things that you've described there in the monument. So I think that's a good example there. We have other areas on forest that are wilderness, where we do really try to remove that human influence as much as possible in terms of those spaces to allow for the opportunities that the Wilderness Act described. But in other places, we are prioritizing economics. It is our commitment to provide a reliable, sustainable source of timber to the mills in our areas. And so there is an economic driver there as well as with tourism, as we heard from you all this morning. So it's always, for me as a decision maker, an ongoing balance depending on the situation and the project.
Okay, thank you.
I hope that was a little better than it depends, but I would love, like I said, to have
Was a little better.
Okay, I would love to have a longer conversation with you about that.
Want to use the word depends, there's a lot of old people in.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah,
We're gonna say that.
yeah. You know, we appreciate your time today. You've actually been in a couple times before on Wednesdays. We never get this kind of turnout or these kind of questions. This board may have to look at on certain things, trying them out on a Tuesday, even though it takes away some of your time. I mean, you're still going to have time, but this has been much more interactive than the last couple times, and we've appreciate that you actually come in and interact with us. So that's always appreciated. So once again, thanks for joining us today, and we look forward. I'm sure we'll have you again.
Of course, thanks so much for having us, commissioners, chairman, public as well. Thank you so much for your questions. It's always nicer to have a conversation than just to talk at people, right?
Yeah.
So thanks to all of you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we will open it up, and I just acknowledge it's nice to see my friend back, Commissioner Mortensen, his lovely life. Johnny, thanks. Yeah. So we will open it up if any of you have anything, or you've talked yourself out. Okay. No, are you coming? Okay.
So, Thursday, yeah, but it's hard to follow that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But now Thursday over in Longview, those guys passed the resolution that, you know, we all kind of been waiting for a long time. And, I think it's time for you guys to come up with something like this yourselves. It's not going to be fair to Longview to make this stand and then be able to have people all around and go into Longview and poach off of them. And, we've got our homeless camps going
Poach
here.
off of Longview how?
The homeless. Oh, okay. Should I back up? Thursday, Longview made a resolution about zero tolerance for camping and some other things. It's not anything that they didn't make any new rules or laws or codes or anything like that. They basically just solidified their rules. And, you know, it bounced down to zero tolerance on camping in public spaces. The gazebo's been cleared out now for a few days in a row, which is pretty amazing. You know, they've taken a move in the right direction. So when the people are getting zero tolerance in Longview and they can come over here by the river and camp out, but there's no, you know, place to steal anything, then they can march right back over to Longview and do the bad things that they do. And I
Oh,
think,
so that's what you mean by poaching.
right,
You're saying we're going to harbor the criminals and they're going to pick on Longview.
exactly.
Huh,
Now,
okay. I'll have to think about that.
Another point about this is, and I brought this up on last Thursday, is the fact that, and I mean, so much is going on in California right now, but before all this rioting stuff, it was in the news that the governor himself is illegalizing any kind of homeless camping. He's running them all out of the state, basically. For whatever reason, he's done a 180. But if they're going to run the homeless people out of California, where are they going to go? And the fact is, if we got 1/10 of 1% of California's homeless people, we're going to have a whole new population here. And I'm just saying, I think would be wise to make a Cowlitz County ordinance, something like what Longview's done. And it doesn't require any kind of new law or anything like that. They didn't do that. They just solidified what they have done, you know, their rules. And, you know, make Cowlitz County more of a buffer. So when the homeless are traveling up I-5, they will know, don't stop here at Cowlitz County. Just keep on going.
Would it surprise you if I told you that we received a letter from the Longview that they're asking if we have a space for day campers since they don't have them over there anymore?
Yeah, see, well, there you go. And then
So I don't think Longview is worried about being poached.
the answer should be no.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know?
the answer is no. As
Yeah,
far as I'm concerned, I don't have a space for them,
right.
but
Well, I
I-
can tell you that.
the attitude of Longview is a little different than. yours
Well,
and
we know
mine.
that too, but I'm just saying that this is along the lines of all the things that we've argued for years. And finally, something comes up, it's the right thing to do for what we've been working on, as far as I've understood it.
Gotcha.
I find out different that I'm working on something and people aren't, you know what I mean? This happens. But I feel like this is something that our general ideas around here have been working toward. And now they've made a step in the right direction. I think the county should do it as well. I can tell you that out by where I live, along the river there, and you can't see them from my house, but if you drive on West Side Highway, I'm sure you have, and you can
Yeah.
look across the river and see there's a big long camp down there, always has been. And,
Do you know that's Weyerhaeuser?
Weyerhaeuser owns that? I thought the railroad and the
Worked with them
county.
and they came and cleared that out at one point in time, but yeah.
I saw the railroad guys clearing it out before,
Yeah.
because I was walking the trail one day and they were running their
Well,
police down the line there.
Maybe it is
They chased me off.
maybe it is some of the, I think there's a part that's Weyerhaeuser, but maybe it is there, but.
Well,
we-
you know, it's like the
something to get-
Kelso old water plant, you know,
Yeah.
it's a.
Is that what that concrete building was? An
Yeah,
old water
the-
plant?
Yeah. And, you know, that's a place where, it's a great beach right there, you know?
Yeah.
And, back when I had just the dog and not a small child, I would go down there, you know, to walk the dog. And I mean, I can't even tell you the mess that occurs there and the homeless people, you know what I mean? It's like, then they're, I don't know. I could go on, you know, I've heard all the stories about that stuff. My point is, we need to start repelling these people and taking a more active, expulsion kind of stance now, facing what's coming from California, in my opinion. And it's just, you know, you can say, if they're going to kick the homeless out of California, where are they going to go? And they're going to go to Oregon and Washington, right? And like I say, they got so many, if we just get a small fraction of what they have going on, we are going to be overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Well, Tim, I understand your sentiment. Couple things on California. This is my personal belief. I don't think that they're going to kick them out. It's too much of a money thing for them. If you look at the amount of money that the state of California spends on homelessness, it's in the tens of
Okay,
billions.
well, I agree with you. Now, I don't want to interrupt you either, but I don't want to drag on too much because I know other people want to speak. But the fact is just look it up, you know,
No.
just check the news, because there's Governor Newsom saying, we're getting rid of them. We're changing the law.
Point of clarification though, what exactly did did they add anything or did they just say, hey, we're going to enforce the laws that we have on the books that we haven't been enforcing? Because I mean.
Yeah, pretty much. That's they didn't make any new rule, nothing changed in their laws or anything. They just ramped it up, zero tolerance. I talked to an officer there for the time that was going on, and I won't disclose who it was, but I'd talk to you guys about it on the side when we're done here, maybe for a minute.
Jim, I was in the hallway out
And you were
there.
talking to
I
the guy I
got
was
the tail
talking
end
to.
of it, and I was
Yeah.
talking to one of the captains, and he was standing out there shaking his head going, this changes nothing. It's what they're already doing.
It's already doing, and he told me the same things. And you know, and something that I hadn't realized, you know, I always against the shopping cart thing. He says, well, we've been doing the shopping cart thing for quite a while now, and you don't see them with a shopping cart. Now you see them with a gosh darn yard trailers and stuff. I said, dude,
Baby carriages.
well, I mean,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
kind of like them little carts you pull behind your mower, you know, and it's like, I saw a guy yesterday when I was just driving down the street. He had doubles. He had two of those trailers and a bike specially rigged up so he could push his bike and pull these trailers of stuff, you know?
Well, that might be
so-
why Longview wants more bike lanes.
Yeah, could be, you know, but they don't use them, you know, if
Look at that. You just got Commissioner Mortensen excited.
if they would be using the bike lanes, that would make it worthwhile maybe, but they just go everywhere else. My thought is, you know, take a look at this. I think that, you owe it to kind of Longview to kind of back them up in a certain way, you know, this does that a little bit, but also just this, we've got to do something because more are coming, lots more. And that's,
Okay.
you know, just have a look at it.
All right.
Mr. Chair, I
Anybody?
do have go ahead.
Go ahead. No.
I was gonna say, I wanted to just report on my fish recovery board, stuff. I got a couple of emails this week with regards to the NOAA funding being cut, from the federal government. And I spent about 2 hours going through and reading all of the material information that they, sent to us. And, one of the things that I focused on was on the fish passage stuff. And I emailed Kelly a picture of one of the illustrations that they had that I wanted to show, because it's just crazy to me, going back to my original statement with the U.S. Forest Service, about how we give Mother Nature zero credit. So this first illustration shows the difference between a culvert and what we're spending millions of dollars on for fish passage, in replacing these culverts. And the illustration's kind of funny because if, I don't have time to go through and read it, but up on the top, it shows what an original culvert looks like, and they have a brush or a tree or whatever that is saying that those get obstructed. And you can see it shows the, the drop on the downside river, on the water, flow being poured into the lower half of the river. And what it says is that the fish have a hard time getting upriver, upstream, because of the culverts, and that the culverts can be obstructed. And the lower illustration shows no obstruction, because apparently fish passages will not get obstructed by anything floating down the river. And it shows the water level very similar, although if you look, it shows the water level bending, which doesn't make any sense. That's not how water works. But if you go through and read this, as I went through and read it, I was just like, wow, we're spending $2.5 million on that lower picture, because that's supposed to be better for the fish, and it's not going to get obstructed, which I'm not sure where they come up with that. But I researched how salmon migrate, and I sent a couple of videos to Kelly to show what fish actually do with man-made structures and what they do with Mother Nature structures. So this first video, if you look, there's a tube shooting water out of a dam, and the fish are caught in this pool down here at the bottom, and you see the fish attempting to jump up into that tube. Now, if you watch that fish right there, he gets into the water and into the tube he goes, all on its own. Now, I'm not suggesting that that's the best way to do it, but obviously Mother Nature, like I said, we really don't give her any credit. And the next video shows a natural obstacle, if you will, one that we did not create, but you have salmon jumping up these waterfalls. In this particular video, this waterfall is probably 40 feet that we see, and it shows these fish making it up to the top. And so I often question, my question to these people, I question what we do and why we do it, because we're spending $2.5 million for these fish passage culverts that, are they really going to be any better than what, just replacing a regular culvert? And so the point to the email was that everybody's up in arms because NOAA's not going to be funded anymore. And when you go through and read it, it really talks about all the jobs that it creates and the economic impact and all that stuff, and very little about the fish themselves. And so I find it interesting and very telling that we use those. I will use the fish as the object of why we're spending the money that we're spending, when the fish is like low on the priority list itself.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
bureaucratic jobs that are created with that money, it's not got nothing to do with the fish.
Yeah. Government agencies are built to fund themselves and grow. They very rarely, they may at the beginning, and this of course is personal opinion, they may at the beginning have a solid or worthwhile cause, but it quickly morphs into, we just need to grow and more for us. It doesn't take long. That's why I say never open the door for a new agency. Totally agree with what was just said. Go ahead.
Congratulations, Steve. What you have demonstrated is what all of us have learned in the last few years, to question so-called experts, because we learned that in the whole COVID thing, that the experts had everything 100% wrong, or mostly wrong. And I think the other thing too, what you said, Rick, I think it was Jefferson said that any organization needs a good revolution every 20 years or something like that. And that comes right back to human nature. You know, any of us can come up with a good idea with all of the best intentions. And once you get it going, at some point, it's taken over by people that are interested in something other than what it started out to be. And then it gradually or quickly, in many cases, goes downhill. So, yeah, we always need, no matter what organization it is, it always needs to be continually churned to make sure that experts don't gradually take charge of it and it ends up being something other than what it was originally intended to be.
Yeah,
So,
there's a saying, I'll say it at times, and it said a lion leading a bunch of jackasses, it's much more preferred than a jackass leading a bunch of lions. And at this point, we got a bunch of jackasses trying to lead, so. From the rear. Yeah, the other thing you'll see us come up, Commissioner Rader also sits on, Commissioner Mortensen used to sit on, SWACA, Southwest Washington Clean Air. They're coming up with some proposals that are just in initial look at it, or the initial conversation I heard of are pretty scary. And I think when we get a better handle on that, we'll probably address that in this room and bring you up to speed of what they're doing. This is another example of an agency that was set up for one thing and has morphed into totally unacceptable areas. Okay, anything else? Do you like kind of bringing in somebody on your Tuesdays? You're all right giving up a little bit of time? Okay, we'll have that discussion, maybe do that a little more. Because like I said, we've had them in twice before and never had the participation, so, all right. With nothing else, I'm not seeing anything else. We will adjourn. Thank you.
So Thursday, they had the wall run. It was the opposite of what we, they had all the weapons in there, and they're all being boo and, like we did. Yeah, it was just it was just so role reversal? Yes, it was. And so they had the hour or two of people coming up and doing their homeless shit, you know what I mean? So then I got up there and I'm like, some other people came after me, but I was the first one to really speak up for this resolution, but.
Who's in the hallway?
So, anyway, I get done speaking. I didn't say a lot, but it doesn't matter what I said. I got up, the whole crowd's booing me. Got the whole room booing, So I was sitting at my seat and I go over to sit down, and then the guy was behind me and some lefty, he already said his piece. He booed me. I hit me right in the chest. And I was just like this close. And so it's an example, and it went like this. Fuck you. And then it just came out.